The number of clinical trials using immunotherapy has been increasing. Immunotherapy drugs allow the cancer to become visible to the immune system, so the immune system can then attack it. It showed incredible success with melanoma, lung and bladder cancer, which previously had limited options for treatment. Breast Cancer Trials currently has 2 open immunotherapy clinical trials, Chariot and Diamond. However, before this came PANACEA. PANACEA was Breast Cancer Trials' first immunotherapy clinical trial, which paved the way for trials like Diamond. We sat down with the chair of the Breast Cancer Trials Scientific Advisory Committee, Associate Professor Prue Francis, to ask what was learnt from PANACEA.
So PANACEA is a very exciting trial, I think, for breast cancer. And PANACEA was led by Professor Shireen Loy, who's a member of Breast Cancer Trials and a member of our Scientific Advisory Committee. And she led this internationally. And PANACEA was studying women who have advanced or metastatic HER2-positive breast cancer, and it was studying women who had already received standard therapy for their advanced breast cancer. So they'd received trastuzumab-based therapy, Herceptin-based therapy, and they had, usually received that with chemotherapy. And the women who participated had generally received a number of different HER2-based therapies along the way before they entered the PANACEA trial. And the PANACEA trial was going into a new area for HER2-positive in breast cancer, and it was looking at trying to introduce new immunotherapy drugs into the treatment for women with HER2-positive breast cancer. So in the case of the PANACEA trial, there was a drug called pembrolizumab, which is a checkpoint inhibitor. So when cells multiply, there are checkpoints, and it's a checkpoint inhibitor. So it was trying to combine this immunotherapy checkpoint inhibitor with trastuzumab, a HER2-targeted therapy, and without giving any chemotherapy, so combining these sort of effects to try and see if this way of approaching and treating the immune system with the HER2-targeted therapy, whether that could control the cancer in some of these women, most of whom had received all the standard sorts of therapies. And what was very exciting was that there is some evidence of activity for this combination, and so there will be future studies with immunotherapy as a result of this.
So the results from this trial, have they informed the Chariot and Diamond trial, which are also immunotherapy?
Yeah. So one of the things from the PANACEA trial that was learned was that the women who, when they studied their tumour and they found that their tumour had some expression of this marker called PD-L1, or if they had tumour infiltrating lymphocytes, which are immune cells, that these were the women that potentially could benefit from that strategy. So that was one thing we learned from the PANACEA trial. And the PANACEA trial has led on to the Diamond trial, which Breast Cancer Trials is currently involved in. And in the Diamond trial, we're going to be studying women with HER2-positive advanced breast cancer and combining 2 of these immunotherapy drugs with the trastuzumab, and perhaps also looking at women slightly earlier in the course of their advanced disease, when they haven't had quite so many therapies, because we think the immune system actually may be more receptive to these immune-type treatments a bit earlier in the course of the disease, rather than waiting till there's no other therapies left.
Do you see immunotherapy as a big part of the future of breast cancer research?
So at the moment, immunotherapy is probably a bigger part of some other tumours other than breast cancer. So, for example, melanoma, it's a very big part of that, lung cancer. But I think it will become an important part of breast cancer. But I think that we will need to learn exactly which patients will be the ones who might benefit from immunotherapy. At the moment, the clues that we have is that there may be some patients with triple-negative breast cancer, so that's where there's no estrogen receptor, no progesterone receptor, no HER2 overexpression. That some of those patients, a subgroup of those, might benefit, and also some with HER2-positive breast cancer. At the moment, for the most common type of breast cancer, which is the estrogen receptor positive, HER2 negative breast cancer, which is the majority, it's less clear exactly what role immunotherapy will play in that group, because hormone therapy has been a very important treatment for that group. But I think even amongst that group there will be women who could benefit from immunotherapy. So I think it's a very exciting time at the moment in the immunotherapy field to try and learn which women can benefit and how and in what context.
How important were the PANACEA results? Has it changed practice? Is it going to be used more to inform future studies?
I think they're very important from a principal point of view, because it's the first time we've really seen the clue in HER2 positive advanced breast cancer that immunotherapy is something that should be on the map in terms of a treatment. And there were, in the group of women who had the PD-L1 expression in their tumour, there was about a quarter of those women had their tumour controlled for at least 6 months with just this combination of the immunotherapy and the HER2 therapy, trastuzumab, with no chemotherapy. And there are some women who've had a longer period of control than that. So I think it's very important to understand the principle that this can work, and then try to target it better and work out exactly in what context and how to make it work better in more women is going to be important going forward.
That was Associate Professor Prue Francis, the chair of the Breast Cancer Trials Scientific Advisory Committee. If you'd like to learn more about immunotherapy and the Chariot and Diamond trials, head to our website, breastcancertrials.org.au. If you'd like to keep up to date with the latest in breast cancer research, open clinical trials, stories and breast cancer trials activity, make sure you subscribe to the Breast Cancer Trials podcast and follow us on social media. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover on the podcast with our team of experts, make sure you get in touch. And if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you tell those in your support circles to tune in.